What is Cartesian dualism and what's so wrong about it? René Descartes famously stated, "Cogito ergo sum," from the fact that he is thinking, trying to doubt everything, he can deduce that at least he himself, as a spiritual entity, exists. This led him to accept the existence of a spirit substance, of which minds or souls are made. But then he also accepted matter as another substance, of which all physical things, even his own body, are made. Descartes was an ontological dualist. He accepted the existence of exactly two substances, spirit and matter. This way of thinking seems very natural to many people, but is generally not accepted by scientists or philosophers who call such views Cartesian dualism after Descartes' Latinized name Cartesius. There are other kinds of dualism, but Cartesian dualism is specifically the dualism that separates the physical from the mental. Descartes saw that the main difference between these substances is in the attributes of entities. Physical objects have measurable properties like dimensions and weight, but mental objects cannot be so measured. Remember that Descartes lived during the scientific revolution, when the natural sciences were proving their explanatory power and usefulness. New discoveries and inventions were being made all the time. For example, mechanical clocks and clockwork machines, or automata, were built to awe and entertain people. Descartes himself was also a scientist. He was also a mathematician and, importantly, developed the Cartesian coordinates, combining algebra and geometry. It is then no wonder that he adopted the mechanical worldview of the leading scientists, where things in the world occur mechanically, according to causal laws. Objects push each other around, and nature is seen as full of mechanical objects. Descartes managed to convince himself that all animals are also mechanical objects, and so are even human bodies. What made humans different was that a human also has a soul, made of the spirit substance. Few would accept this speciesistic notion anymore. Cartesian dualism thus created another dualism as well. Humans were seen as separate from the animals, as if humans weren't also animals. For all his faults, Aristotle had classified humans correctly as an animal species. Cartesian dualism was thus effectively a philosophical justification for animal cruelty. The Cartesian worldview made it acceptable to treat non-humans as mere material. People could convince themselves that animals cannot experience emotions or sensations or anything, since they are just machines, and so they cannot feel pain or any suffering even when being slaughtered. This may sound shocking to any pet owner or anyone with basically any experience with animals, and is once again an example of how people can sometimes use their cognitive abilities to completely fool themselves or to rationalize anything they want to believe in. But that is not the main reason why Cartesian dualism is now usually seen as a failure in philosophy, something to avoid in one's own philosophy. The main reason for that is the problem of interaction. Since the two Cartesian substances are completely different, and Descartes recognized that the spirit substance, not having dimensions, cannot be causally, physically, affected by material objects, then how can the human soul and body even interact with each other? Descartes suggested that there was a place in the middle of the brains where the interaction could occur. There is an organ called the pineal gland, the functions of which were not known at the time, conveniently in the middle of the brains, and so Descartes thought that it was the perfect place for the mind to use as a sort of control center. It would receive information from the senses through that organ, thus monitoring the body, and it could send instructions to the body through the same organ as well. This view has of course been falsified with the development of the brain sciences, but even if that weren't the case, it would still be a very unsatisfactory explanation even from a philosophical point of view. It in no way explains how those two substances could interact, and that is what they would have to do even in the control center if such a place existed. The issue hasn't really gone away and is now known as the mind-body problem. Since few scientists or philosophers believe in souls or spirit substance anymore, the discussion has mostly turned into the hard problem of consciousness. If we are only material beings, then how is consciousness possible? How are we able to experience and think? This is discussed in the philosophy of mind. It is becoming more and more plausible that an artificial intelligence, AI, could actually be built. Not just a ChatGPT type of thing, but one that actually has a consciousness and general intelligence similar to ours. This possibility is still being debated. If it can be created, and especially if it actually is created one day, what does that imply for ontology? It seems unlikely that building a machine that is conscious would somehow result in the machine also receiving a soul made of spirit substance. Rather, it would seem that the spirit substance is redundant as an explanation for consciousness, for us humans as well as the real general AI. Occam's razor would suggest eliminating the redundant entity from our explanation, thus favoring the more simple materialism. The main reasons people oppose such a materialistic view seem to be religious or emotional. If we don't have souls, what are the implications for religious claims regarding souls? If we don't have minds made of spirit substance, are we just machines? Some materialists would agree to some extent. Eliminative materialism is the view that everything, including the workings of our minds, can be explained in terms of natural science. Folk psychological terms that people commonly use to describe mental states and phenomena should be eliminated from use, leaving only neurological or other scientific terms. The most radical among eliminative materialists actually claim that those folk psychological terms have nothing corresponding to them in reality. I still doubt that even they would say that we are just machines. Some materialists would make it very clear that we are not just machines, and while there is much that is similar to machines in us, we are also significantly more than that. Emergent materialists claim that the complicated machinery of our brains enables the emergence of our minds from the merely mechanical. This mind cannot be reduced to the functions of the brains, according to this view, even though it is still based on the material substance of our brains. This means that, for example, neurology cannot fully explain the functions of the mind because those properties of the mind emerge at a different level of explanation. Regardless of which view about the mind may be correct, it is clear that it will have to explain what the connection between the body and the mind is. That there is a strong connection is obvious. For example, you probably have experienced things like psychosomatic symptoms yourself. Or at least you have heard of other people, like your friends or family members, experiencing them. That is, your mental states cause physical symptoms in your body or its functions. Expressions in language sometimes refer to such things. Someone can say they almost pooped their pants when they are trying to say that they were very scared, for example. Perhaps you can think of other expressions like that yourself, and if so, please put them in the comments below. Conversely, the mind is obviously affected by what the body is physically experiencing. You may be calmed down by a friendly hug, or you can relax yourself by walking in the woods. I want to warn you that sometimes people mistake causes and effects here as well. There is a common myth that stress causes stomach ulcers, for example, even though it has been shown that those ulcers are actually caused by bacteria, Helicobacter pylori. I would think that the connection here is the reverse. I find it very understandable if people who have a stomach ulcer experience a lot of stress. After all, they are suffering from serious damage to their stomach lining. Another similar mistake may be attributing the appearance of pimple, also known as zits, directly to the experienced mental stress. This isn't completely wrong, but the explanation that seems likely is just a little bit more complicated. When experiencing stress, people are likely to touch their faces more than they usually do. This will result in grease and dirt making their way to the pores of their facial skin, resulting in pimples. So the stress alone does not directly cause the pimples to appear. It is also very clear at this stage in the progress of the sciences of the mind, for example psychology, neurology and cognitive science, that minds require brains to exist. Many of the functions of the mind can even be precisely located in the brain, so that damage to the back of the head can cause blindness even if the eyes are undamaged. And damage to certain parts of the brain can result in an inability to understand language, even if the person is otherwise able to hear spoken and see written language. The problem is explaining our experiences and behavior. How am I able to mentally cause my hand to move? Is the mental command or will to move the hand identical with some specific phenomenon in the physical brain? This is an area where the philosophy of mind definitely needs to work in close connection with psychology and the brain sciences. Material explanations of our minds are sometimes still seen as dangerous for morality. It is thought that if our behavior is fundamentally under the same causal laws as all natural phenomena, then there is no free will. That is the subject of my next video. I hope you'll stick around to see it. If you wish to support my channel, please click thumbs up, subscribe and share my videos. Any comments on the videos would also be welcome.